Hi everyone, my name is Younes, and today I'll be implementing a simple price parser in TypeScript using TCR approach. TCR, which stands for test and commit or revert. I'm gonna share some links about this or explain this in another video or blog post, still don't know. Anyway, so today I'm using IntelliJ, or you could use WebStorm with Jetbrains IDE. And I use this because I have a special plugin here called Limited WIP Work in Progress. It has three main different features. The change size watchdog that watches how many lines changed since last commit, so you might get a warning for that. It will encourage you to make a commit before you cross this limit. Auto revert, I'm going to show it maybe later in this video or another one. It will simply revert automatically all your changes if you don't make a commit every, I don't know, 2 or 5 minutes or however. And today we're going to focus on TCR. Okay, so once we enable this, every time the test passes, it will make a commit, and if the test fails, it will revert. So I created a repository here with a special branch I'm working on today, and I'm going to share the links later. It's called Wishstack Experiments. So the first thing I tried was to set up my tests to run every time I save a file. So I used watch all options. I'm just running everything every time I change a file and I save it. I'm going to start my tests. So, okay. So the cool thing is that, I don't know, if I go and blah, 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 just break my test like this and save the file, well, it's going to revert and everything goes back to the previous state. This is perfect. Problem is, if I don't know, if I change my assertion here and save the file, well, the funny thing is that the test runs, it fails. So the TCR will revert your changes. The problem is you end up in the green state and you don't know what went wrong. So we need the reporting. So except if we have some special tooling in the future, you want to disable this kind of options, and we will run the tests manually. So this is something that changes our way of developing when compared to TDD. So I'm going to stop this. I'm going to run that, and here we go. So okay, I have my test here. Now I'm running them manually. What I'm going to do here is that I'm going to create a new file called parse.spec.ts, but I'm going to exclude it like this, because if it's named .spec.ts, it's going to run and it's empty and just doesn't like empty spec files, so it's going to fail. And why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I'm going to make a manual commit. I'm cheating a little bit on TCR, and my IDE doesn't want me to do that because I'm not make commits without running tests. But here I'm going to force this, and it's a hack here. Hacking the TCR because I want to control the first commit, whatever it is. It could be just a text file or anything. I'm just making a small change and without code or anything. Just want to control the first commit message, which is going to be used by my plugin here for the following changes. So if I run my tests here, everything's fine, all the changes have been saved, and I'm gonna rename this to spec.ts. And look, if I run the tests and anything goes wrong, because the test is empty, the file is empty, so it's just reverting to xspec.ts, and I get the error here because the test suite is empty. So let's fill this file with the test suite. Let's give it what it wants. So I'm gonna remove this, make it bit clearer. So let's describe the test suite, which is parse price. And parse price, well, it should, that's the test should, that the spec here, and it should parse the price. Okay, just do this for a moment. And let's exclude this test because it's not implemented yet. And at least this is committed. And by the way, starting from here, I can start describing my tests in a way I call comment-driven development, which means you write your tests without even considering the implementation. You don't even care about the language. You don't even care about pseudo language. You're just like, okay, I'm going to call a function. I'm going to give it something like this, and it's going to give me something like that. So let's do this. What I want. First, I want to parse a price without currency. I want to parse another price with currency, with the currency code. I'm going to run the tests. Of course, it's going to skip these tests, but I'm running the test just in order to make a commit. So let's make another one with a currency symbol. Okay, so all these tests are not implemented yet. And now let's move to the comments-driven part, which is something like this. Okay, well, I should run something like parse price and give it a string is fine. I'm gonna give it a value like this, and it should return. See, I don't care about the syntax or anything. It should return an object with coefficient, exponent, and currency, which is nil. And at this point, we can have a lot of discussions with people from our team, like, okay, this is really the part where you should do some pair programming, at least. And so the whole team can think about how the function should behave. Okay, I added this test. I just run the test. You see, the problem I found with TCR for the moment is that I have to manually run the tests. I would love them to just run automatically, but there's this problem about like auto revert and just run again and you don't have the report. And the other problem is you might have a race condition. At least when I run the tests, I stop coding. But if you keep coding, it happened to me. Like, it happens a lot. If you do that with a watch, you might end up continuing, like you continue changing stuff, and after the test succeeds, it will commit your changes, and it's not something you want because it will commit the changes of something it didn't test. Anyway, okay, so this is, I'm gonna give it the symbol, okay, and we'll try other combinations later. Good. So the cool thing is that until now, like the way I work here is common to TCR and TDD. The only thing, this is a common trap with TDD, is that like people start implementing like hundreds of or test cases for a function while they might not need them. So let's just keep it simple, because I really know I need these three things. But I didn't care about what about parsing a null object or something, or an empty string. Well, it's not gonna happen, and if it happens, we'll handle it, or it's not something we'll manage. Okay, so don't overthink it, and let's start working. So what I want here is I'm gonna expect parse price this blah 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 to equal an object containing coefficient, exponent, currency. No. Sounds good. Problem here, we are in TypeScript. If I was in JavaScript, I would have run the tests because it wouldn't fail. But with TypeScript, this is going to fail because the function does not exist, and this won't compile. So I'm going to create the function globally here, and it takes let's call it price string and or raw price, whatever. And what I do here is I throw not implemented error. This is kind of a Pythonic way of doing that, doing TDD, but well, it works like this. And the other thing I do for anything is that I always annotate my functions, which are like in work in progress, and they are deprecated. It's funny, like to see a function which is not born yet to be deprecated, but I do this because I want my changes to be committed, to be shared, to go to production, whatever, and I want my other people in my team to notice that the function is should not use it. So the only way to make all IDEs and tools consider that the function should not be used is deprecation. So it's a hacky way to do that, but it happens to work. Okay, this is good. Let's get rid of this hello spec. Oh, not yet, because I guess let's try. I guess if I remove it and if there's no tests, I hope Jest fails. But it doesn't care if there's no test. Well, that's okay. And okay, so if I enable this test, let's just see what happens. If I enable it, I guess I get an exception. Okay, this is where things go sour, and here exactly, and my test is failing now, and it got reverted, so it's excluded back again. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, okay, if price string is equal to this, then I'm going to return that. Otherwise, I'm going to throw, why did I remove that line? Throw not implemented error. Okay, so I'm going to enable that test. The problem here, if I make a typo somewhere like this, it will remove all this. Okay, this makes sense, but it will also disable my test, which I would have to re-enable. And here it's cool because it's a demo and I have everything in the same file, but in real life, this function would be in another file. So I have to go back to the test file and re-enable the test to see what happens. Anyway, so let's try this. Cool, it works. I got one test passing. I can remove this old file here, and so that's how I'm going to implement the rest. So let's say here I'm gonna do something like I'm not gonna use math for now. Let's just parse the float number I get in price string and multiply it by 100. I don't even know if it's gonna work, and I don't care because it's TCR. You don't have to think about it. Okay, it makes sense. Let's just generalize it. I'm gonna add another test. So here, if I do this, and I run the tests, and things go wrong, it's gonna go back. So here, problem is you're like, yeah, of course I didn't implement it. I just run the test by mistake or something. And here there is there's this trick which is considered cheating somewhat, is you can undo the last change on this file. Well, here it's not good at all because it's undoing my changes on the test, but if I had some changes in the code here, it would undo them too. But if I move this parse price to another file, I could undo every file. Like I just try something in my test, it fails, and I'm undoing it. And well, anyway, it's discussable. I don't know how bad it is to undo one file, just one change, one line. But it can be abused, because like people will be like, okay, now I undo it and I'm gonna add another one, and then, well, anyway, that's the game, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, so okay, let's do this and let's try how it works this way. I could have moved this to another test. Anyway, just put it together. I don't care. It's working. And then you do this like progressively. You try new things. You can try, I don't know, like we can implement this and say, okay, now if I parse this, I should get this, okay? And the test is excluded, so I don't care. And now I'm going to try to enable that. Okay, so it failed, and we can see how it failed, because yeah, the currency was not parsed, but still the numbers were parsed. This is cool. Parse flow is cool. We're lucky the currency was not as a prefix, but as a suffix. And okay, so I run the test again, and it's working because they're excluded. Problem here is, like, the only thing here is that if I look at my history, which is still not that heavy, but as you can see, I have a lot of changes here as price parser, and I don't know which ones contain like new features, which one contains just tell about refactoring, or I don't know. So I like to keep like commit messages depending on what I do, and the problem with TCR is that you don't think about them anymore. There are big discussions about this point anyway. But the thing is, TCR is quite easy when you're creating new function or something, or refactoring some code. But a few days ago, I tried TCR on a function where I was using libraries I never used before. And it was really hard because I was just running some functions. I didn't know how they work, and I was just wanting to see how I was spiking a little bit. It was like quite a spike, and I was just experimenting things, and I didn't. The problem is that you're experimenting something, and then your test fails. You would like to run the same test that failed another time, so you can debug and see, oh, okay, this is what the function returns, so I'm going to use this time, okay? And you don't always have like all this information in the reports when the test fails. You don't have like a complete snapshot of what happened when the test failed. So this is just depends on the tooling. But the more I think about TCR, the more I think it's really perfect for refactoring. Like, just run all the tests all the time, then you go TCR and you start making your changes. If you break something, you roll back, and that's it. So now what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna try the same thing in TDD.